where the hell was this team the last 2 weeks? So the game just ended and the Broncos destroyed the Buccaneers 26-7. So we lose to two mediocre teams and then beat a team that's looked like one of the top contenders in the NFL the last 2 weeks. Yeah, that sounds like the Broncos. Because if I recall, back in 2021, we lost to both the Commanders and the Eagles, who were mediocre that season, and then we turned around and whooped the Cowboys. So this is nothing new for Denver. But where's this offense been? People like to make fun of the Broncos fans because the last 2 weeks we've been playing really bad offense, even though our offense looked amazing in the preseason. Because this is what the offense looked like in the preseason. It looked efficient. But for some reason the last 2 weeks, no, I know the reason. It's Joe Lombardi. I know I didn't make videos on those other two games. I was intending to, but I never got around to it. But I'm making one on this one, especially since I'm excited because we finally won a game. We're not going 0-17, motherfuckers. So, it's sad nowadays that a lot of teams are satisfied not going 0-17. But considering we were projected to win 4 to 6 games, winning one in week 3 against a very, very solid Buccaneers team is pretty good. And it's not even like there's an asterisk over this one. Like everybody put an asterisk over our win against the Chiefs last year because, oh, Mahomes had the flu. What, did the rest of the team have the flu as well? Because the rest of the team played like shit that week as well. And we beat them by a pretty similar score. So, because, again, the Buccaneers played well. Our defense just suffocated them. And Bo Nix, I feel so bad for the poor bastard because everyone's making fun of him for having 4 interceptions in the first 2 games when he's a rookie QB with a shitty offensive coordinator. And I will give Joe Lombardi credit. I was making sure my tongue wasn't purple. I just had a freaking purple energy drink, so it's like, I was wondering if that was showing up on camera. But I will give Joe Lombardi credit. He's learning. I mean, he's been in the league so long, he shouldn't have to be learning, but he's learning from his mistakes. First 2 weeks, he realized going screen pass after screen pass after screen pass, and then running it up the middle on 3rd and 15 is a bad idea. Because we started the game off, Nix was chucking the rock downfield, and while the poor bastard still hasn't gotten a touchdown pass in the last 3 games, he has had 2 rushing touchdowns. And I'm not going to fully defend Joe Lombardi on this one because that one touchdown rush by Jaleel McLaughlin, what was that play call? 4th and 1 and you pitch it 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage? Really? But thankfully McLaughlin is shifty enough that he got into the end zone. So let's look at some stats for the game. Bo Nix, 25 for 36, 216 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and 0 sacks. And that's something else I want to bring up. Is that our offensive line has looked good. That was one of the biggest problems we had. That was one of the things I thought was our biggest problem last year was our offensive line. But not only have we lost Lloyd Cushenberry, our center from last year, and now we're starting Luke Wattenberg, who's been the backup for last few years, I think, or maybe just last year, I don't really know. But I'm starting to think that, but I also noticed that the problem was Russell Wilson held on to the ball way too long. And that was kind of what we did with that was one of the many reasons why we drafted Bo Nix, because he gets rid of the ball quickly. Hell, one of our other draft picks, Jonah Ellis, who by the way has looked phenomenal so far, he straight up said, he's like, playing against Bo Nix was really frustrating because as soon as he'd get close, the ball was gone. And that's kind of his efficiency. I just wish Lombardi would have let him throw more downfield shots last 2 games because it worked at the end of the game when he started chucking the rock downfield. We were getting yards, and it seems like Lombardi finally figured that out, that his stupid screen pass strategy was biting us in the ass, and when they finally chucked it downfield, we got some yards. So let's look at the rushing stats. Bo Nix was once again our leading rusher for a good long while until Beatty broke away with that 43-yard run in the 4th quarter out of nowhere. And it seemed like Beatty was actually pretty efficient. 9 carries for 70 yards, the exact same as the leading rusher for Tampa Bay, Bucky Irving, 9 carries for 70 yards. Bo Nix, 9 for 47 and a touchdown. That's pretty good. Bo Nix is way more of a dual threat than I realized. I did not realize he was this good at running the ball until the preseason. But he's got some wheels on him. I'll give him that. Javonte Williams, 5 for 12. He was very inefficient, and a fumble, too, so he was very inefficient. I'm starting to wonder if Williams has a long-term future on this team. I'm wondering if he's probably going to be gone after this year, and maybe we draft another running back in one of the middle rounds. Jaleel McLaughlin, 5 carries for 7 yards. Not much on the ground, but he did get that 1-yard touchdown. Because the problem with McLaughlin is that he'll have a play where he'll get 7 or 8 yards, and it looks good. And same thing with Williams, really. He'll get 7 or 8 yards on a run, but then the very next play he'll lose 4, and then won't get a carry for another 5 minutes. So it's kind of inconsistent. But Beatty and Nix, they ran the ball well. And our receivers are finally getting some yards. Cortland Sutton, 7 for 68. That's pretty decent. Lil Jordan Humphrey, 6 for 37. Josh Reynolds, who's been our top receiver for a while, until today where I think Sutton passed him, 2 for 36. But it seems like most people caught their targets. Sutton was targeted 11 times. Humphrey was targeted 8 times. Williams, 4 for 29. Adam Troutman, 1 for 13. Troy Franklin, 2 for 11. He was targeted 5 times, but I'm guessing he was mainly covered. But hey, he got his first catches as an NFL wide receiver. Mims, 1 for 9. Jaleel McLaughlin, 1 for 7. And Adkins had a catch on the first drive, and it seems like he didn't have another one in the game because he had 1 target, 1 reception, 6 yards. But again, if you're efficient, that's all I ask for. But our defense has been playing lights out these last few games. We should have beat Seattle. We should have beat Pittsburgh. If our offense played like this the first 2 weeks, or really if our offensive coordinator called plays like he did this week, then we would be 3-0. And I say that with no hyperbole at all, saying like, oh, we could be 3-0. We legitimately could be 3-0 because we lost both of those games by a combined of 13 points. Our offense plays like we did today against Seattle. We kick the crap out of them. Our offense plays like we did against Pittsburgh. We win that game easily because they scored only 13 points in that game. Our offense just couldn't move the fucking ball. And I know Pittsburgh has a way better defense than Tampa Bay, and Seattle's defense is no slouch either. But again, if our offense plays like this, we win both of those games. We could be 3-0 right now. But let's move to the defense. Our leading tackler on the day was Singleton with 10 total tackles and 4 solo ones, then McMillan, 9 and 8. Brandon Jones, however, where the hell did he come from? No, I know he came from Miami, but because I know someone's going to make that joke, but holy hell, he's been playing really well the last few games. Especially today, he had, how many tackles did he have? Brandon, where are you? This thing is really weirdly, he had 6 total tackles, 4 solo tackles, an interception, and a fumble recovery. And the strip sack was done by Riley Moss, who's looked pretty good now that he's finally on the field. Because last year he was injured a lot of last season. And again, I already mentioned Williams' fumble. That he's starting to turn into Melvin Gordon, and that's starting to worry me. We need a running back that can hold on to the ball. And then the Buccaneers, their offense wasn't exactly slouching. Baker Mayfield, 25 for 33, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked 7 times, though, which is amazing for our defense. Because there was a lot of times where, there was 2 drives in a row, actually, where they were on our 45-ish, and then immediately it would be a play that went for, no gain, and then he'd get sacked for 7 or 8 yards, and then he'd throw an incompletion on 3rd and 17 or 18. That happened twice in a row, and then at the end of the game, when they started driving, they strip-sacked Cade Otton, and Brandon Jones ran it back to, the opposite, 45. And they're rushing, again, it wasn't bad. Bucky Irving, 9 for 70, exact same as Tyler Beatty. Rashad White, 6 for 17, and then Sean Tucker got a carry at the end of the game where I guess they were just giving this other guy a carry because the game had 25 seconds left, the game was over. Speaking of that ending, I don't understand kneeling the ball on 4th down. No, I know it's you don't want to risk a turnover, but just kick the field goal then. Because kneeling the ball on 4th down, that's not going to run out the clock. All that's doing, you might as well just hand them the ball at that point. Just kick the field goal, or hell, let Nix throw the ball, let him try to get a touchdown or something. Because again, this poor bastard needs to get some passing touchdowns. And Tampa Bay receiving, Chris Godwin, 6 for 53, and the touchdown. That one drive, they scored after the Williams fumble. That had me worried that was a big momentum shift. But I guess it really wasn't because it seems like our defense was just shh. And and then the Buccaneers just kind of took advantage of that. But after that, the defense, again, played lights out. They only scored on that one drive. Cade Otton, 7 for 47, and was stripped by Riley Moss near the end of the game. Rashad White, 5 for 18. Mike Evans only had 2 receptions for 17 yards. I'm assuming Surtain was covering him because you want to have Surtain on the best offensive player. So holding up Mike freaking Evans, He was only targeted 3 times for 2 receptions for 17 yards. That is no small feat. A guy who's consistently put up 1,000-yard seasons, holding him to 2 catches for 17 yards is fucking insane. So I'm just assuming that was Surtain. Yeah, their defense, nothing special. They didn't have any. They had the one fumble by Williams. That's about it. Punt returns. Marvin Mims had that one punt return for 27 yards. Will Lutz, a.k.a. Clutch. I know people call him Big Nuts Lutz. I prefer Clutch Lutz because I'm not a child. He's 4 for 4, for his longest being 43. He has not missed a field goal yet this season. At all. And he mainly makes his field goals, other than that one against the Bills that was thankfully redacted for a 12 men on the field penalty by Buffalo. He makes the majority of his field goals. I'm glad we traded for him last season because he has looked so good. And, okay, so that's basically it for the game. We played so efficient today. And I'm so glad that our offense is finally coming alive. Will it last? God, I hope so. Lombardi hopefully realized, oh shit, maybe if we throw the ball downfield, we can get some yards. But so right now, if Vegas loses, we're tied for third in the division because we had such a slow start, and the Chargers started 2-0. The Chiefs have the Chargers lost today apparently because it's saying 2-1. They lost to Pittsburgh. So, Kansas City's 2-0. They play the Falcons later today, so we'll see how that goes. The Falcons are meh. They're the definition of mid right now. And Vegas has looked bad, but right now they're 1-1. They play the shitty Panthers today. So, I gotta root that. I wanted to see somebody go 0-17, and it would probably be the Panthers, probably the closest shot. But they're playing Vegas. I gotta root for Andy Dalton and the Panthers. I can't root for the Raiders, especially when we're right behind them. And we play the Raiders in 2 weeks. We play them in week 5. We play them at home. Next week, we're at MetLife for the Jets. Now, the Jets have been our kryptonite for the past 2 seasons. 2 years ago, we should have beat them, and we didn't. And then last year, we had a chance on a game-winning drive, and then Russell Wilson fumbled the ball, and it was returned for a touchdown. The Jets have looked decent. They haven't looked like Super Bowl contenders, but they have looked like playoff contenders. Rodgers looked much better last week than he did the first 2 games. First 2 weeks, he looked pretty pedestrian. Last week, he finally started to get into it and everything, so I'm curious how that's going to go. And the Jets do have a really good defense, so we'll just have to see. Hopefully, the offensive line is terrible, and we can keep sacking Rodgers like we did Baker Mayfield today. And it's sad because I like Baker Mayfield. I think he got screwed in Cleveland and then was in a terrible Panther system and then went to the Rams and kicked our ass on Christmas, which sucked. But I've always thought that he's been screwed everywhere he went. So I like that he's had this kind of career renaissance, but I am glad we won this game. I'm not the biggest fan of tanking, but I understand we want to get kind of a high draft pick because we're probably not going to make the playoffs again this year. We're looking playoffs next season because we kind of stripped our roster it's kind of a skeleton crew. But considering our defense has looked this good without players like Justin Simmons or Josie Jewell, I am shocked how good we've looked. I expect us to look even worse in this game. We were a 5.5-point underdog by the time the game started, and we beat them by almost 20. So I can feel very good about this game, and I'm assuming most Broncos country does feel good. We didn't have to wait until like a softball, because the only game we were favored in up to this point was against the fucking Panthers in week week 8 or 9 or something. But we might be favored in a couple more games if we keep playing like this. Because the Saints looked pretty bad today against the Eagles. And I know they were winning, at least last I saw. But they were looking pretty bad for a while until that last drive. Nope, they lost. Eagles scored. I guess the Eagles scored within the last minute. So, yeah, that's all I got for this. And let's hope the Broncos continue to play this well. Playoffs? Maybe not, but we'd like to go out of this season with some dignity. So that's all I got. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.